Welcome to Heroes Rising, hosted by Sifu Rafael, a master instructor, public speaker, and the founder of Speaking Prowess. Known for his expertise in empowering individuals through the art of communication and leadership. Alongside him is co-host Jose Escobar, an acclaimed personal development speaker, 18-time published author, and founder of 2 thriving businesses, including the Connected Leaders Academy. Together, they bring you dynamic conversations with world-class entrepreneurs, industry icons, and visionaries. Heroes Rising is your go-to source for wisdom, motivation, and unstoppable growth. Join us and discover the hero within you.
Wait a minute. You're not Jose. You're the incredible Scott. How are you, my friend?
I am honored to be here, and I hope that Jose gets better soon. So
yes.
He refills his spot as he's duly earned.
You know, one day when he is back, we need to bring you as a guest. But thank you so much. I am so honored that you said yes to being my co-host. It's almost like saying yes to the dress.
Yeah,
You're a perfect fit, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always an honor to be with you.
Yes, sir. Yes. So we have 2 incredible human beings, and I can't wait any longer. Let's go ahead and bring them in. Sophie, thank you for being here. And Dan is coming. He's walking down the hallway. He's working it out. He's coming. And there he is. Dan, thank you so much for being here. Happy Friday to everyone.
Happy Friday all around.
It's beautiful Friday.
Yeah, so today we're talking about unlocking success. I'm going to leave it there. Boom. Because there's so much that we can talk about that. Who'd like to start? How do we unlock success? Do we use a key? Use a combination lock? Well, how do we do this thing? How do we do this magic? And I'm talking about magic because I know Sophie has magic behind her.
I have magic. I am the ultimate Harry Potter nerd, and I incorporate magic and intuition and business numbers and facts and figures. For me, you know, the key to business success is a holistic approach. It's about the data. It's about the research. It's about intuition, gut feeling. It's about the knowing of your skills and what you want to do. It's passion for what you do. It literally, for me, is a body, mind, and soul and everything else approach, because in my 20 years in the online business world, and 15 of that as a business, all the ups and downs that I've been through, my biggest downs, so to speak, my biggest pitfalls, my biggest failures that I had to bounce back from were because I was not doing the holistic approach. I was not listening to my intuition. I was not in a good mindset, because success mindset is a piece of it. And all of those things work together to make a successful life and business, not just business, but life too. And if you come at it all from a holistic perspective like that, you will succeed more easily and gracefully without all the pitfalls and falls on your face like I've done, or as I call it, all the baseball bats from the universe upside my head. It's a much more graceful and easy way to be successful than resisting and doing it only in certain aspects and certain ways.
I love that answer. Thank you so much. You had us all going like this and smiling. So thank you for that.
I already got to get a new pad for notes. I mean, God.
Dan, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I love that. And Sophie, great share there. I think there's enough of an uphill battle in success, right? Success is never smooth. We've all seen that kind of squirrely line. And when we look at it on the internet, we kind of see what we think success looks like and what it really looks like, is we get that conceptually. But when we get into those moments when it's tough, and when we're getting, like you say, baseball bats to the face, people grabbing our ankles and pulling us down, like just people putting our head underwater, like everything about us is like, what is going on? Like, how am I supposed to win in this? And there's so many of these kind of adversity moments that we have to get through. And, we've all seen the kind of the dreams, like we turn away from our dreams just that close to the beds of diamonds. And like one of the things that I know is is the challenge is just sticking at something long enough for it to be successful, going through those challenges and those adversity periods, and having a reason to get through it. Because half of success is just showing up and doing the thing. And Sifu, you were talking about it, right? Is you keep doing this thing long enough and hard enough and consistently enough, and eventually you win. But there's definitely times along that journey where you're like, screw this, I'm just going to go and do something so much easier over here. But that's not the point, right? The point is to maintain and hold on to our goals and keep going after them. As soon as we stop chasing them, life becomes boring. Success is anything but boring, but it's definitely a roller coaster of getting there. So that's why we need the mindset just to be able to show up every day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think it's cool that you kept on saying enough. It's this enough, it's that enough, it's the other enough, it's enough. You just keep on going. And Sophie, the first thing I wrote down was that success mindset. I mean, that becomes the foundation of enough. How do you develop that?
It takes work, and well, first of all, it takes the desire to want. You have to want and desire a success mindset, and you have to, because there's a lot of naysayers to mindset and things. They poo-poo it and saying, oh, you don't need, it doesn't matter what you think, it doesn't matter what you feel, it's hard work, hustle, grind, do it. That's all it takes. And trust me, I have learned the hard way that the hustle grind method is not the way. It has knocked me on my butt more than once with massive illness, massive stress breakdowns, things like that. And when you work with a group of people, because here's the thing, is when you surround yourself with like-minded people, success mindset kind of comes with it, because then you're around people who are where you want to be, but not from that comparison syndrome where it's like, oh my gosh, Sifu is more successful than me, I'm such a failure. It's, oh my gosh, see, I love Sifu's success. What can I learn from him? What can I gain from being in the same room with him, having conversations, brainstorming, masterminding? And really, yes, if you're a reader, read books, because there are great mindset books out there. If you learn better from a coach or consultant or mentor, get one, because it all helps you succeed. Because if your mind isn't right, everything else is not going to work, because it is that holistic approach: mindset, intuition, facts, figures, skill set, passion. All of those things go together. And if any one component is missing, it doesn't work. And mindset is one of those pieces that really holds the glue together of everything else.
Wow. I am just loving this topic. I got to tell you, a couple of things that you all have said. When we think about success, right? If you take the first three letters, it's kind of suck, right? It kind of sucks when you're trying to achieve success and you keep failing, but you don't give up, but yet you need to keep going, and it sucks in the process. Man, climbing that mountain, oof, there's so many trails and tribulations and setbacks and so forth. And Dan, you reminded me that somebody did hold my head down underwater. I was a little kid and I thought I was going to drown, and they wouldn't let me up. I got so angry. I was fighting. And then I went over to the edge of the pool. It was my older sister, by the way. And I don't know what I did, or maybe she was trying to make sure I knew how to hold my breath. I don't know. But I went to the side and I cried. And I had two options. I was 8 years old. Cry or learn how to swim, because she's also the one that threw me in the water. She threw me in the deep end, and then she came and held my head down. So God love her. So here's the thing, right? It made me strong, because I went to the edge, I cried, and nobody can tell I was crying because I was already wet. So I said, what am I wasting my time for? Let me learn how to swim. So I hung onto the side. I started kicking my feet. I did that for 20 minutes. And people were like, what are you doing? I said, I'm learning, because I'm not letting that happen to me again. So success is understanding that we may go through failure multiple of times, but we cannot quit.
There's a great quote by every motivational speaker says this thing. It's like, what would you dare to do if you knew you couldn't fail? And there's Seth. I give credit to Seth Godin, but he says something different. He says, what would you dare to do if you knew you would fail, but you would do it anyway? Because it's that important to you. And Sophie, you talked about hustle mindset. I agree to some extent, but I also disagree, because I think if anything's worth working towards, if anything's worth achieving, you've got to hustle. You've got to put a ton of effort in to get to where we are all today. We have put some hours in, and we've grinded, we've done those crazy hours, we've done things that people think are unrealistic and unreasonable and just crazy. And why would you do that? I still get those questions to this day. But where I think the thing that I'm noticing more at the moment is when that work is outside of alignment with who we are as people, then it's hard and it drains us. And we have to constantly put on a hat that isn't us. Like we try and conform, or we try and pretend that we're something that we're really not. That's when the hustle and the grind gets exhausting. For me, some of the things I do in terms of writing, I can work and work and work, and it doesn't feel like work. It's just a channel that I get to put effort into. And so I think working like crazy on something that you're not passionate about, that doesn't fit in with your life or your values or anything along those lines, that you're not proud of achievement at the end of the day, is crazy. Like, because we haven't got a lot of time on this planet. Let's make the most of it. But once we find something that we really love and that we know is kind of the ikigai moment where everything kind of overlaps, I'd say put your heart and soul into that. And actually at that point, that's where sacrifice comes in. You say, you know what, I'm going to focus so much on this, I'm not going to do these things over here. One of the things that I think we talked about the other day with, regards to good leaders, is good leaders are able to say no to so many things because they know exactly what they want to lean into, and they can focus on that.
I think it's interesting. The word fail has come up a lot, and I might be unique in this, I might not. I don't think I've ever failed. Have I had things not work well? Yes. Have I had things not go right? Yes. But everyone to me is a learning lesson, is a learning opportunity. And so I don't know if that comes from growing up playing a lot of sports and having a lot of coaches and getting yelled at a lot. And you didn't implement or execute that exactly as we ask. But I wouldn't say that's a failure. I'd say that's a step in the process. But I also think that that's part of a success mindset. Mm-hmm. Am I the only one on this panel that that thinks that, or do I have any agreement anywhere here?
No, I completely agree with you, and that brings up two phrases. I can't say who the quotes are from, and I don't even know that I can quote them exactly. But the first one is, failure is not failure unless you quit.
Right.
And fail your way to success.
Yes.
The failure is the path to success. And you're right. Failure is not failure unless you quit. If you learn from it, get up and try again and try to find your way to success by learning from your failures. It's not true failure because you didn't quit and give up and not go and go do something else or go do nothing else.
Totally agree with that. I would not say that Sifu failed swimming. He just didn't do it appropriately at the time.
The fun thing.
I did fail drowning, though. I did fail drowning.
That I'll give you.
God.
Yeah. The fun thing about sport, I think, Scott, is, and I played a number of different sports growing up. My main one was actually American football as a Brit, which is a little bit different. But is you get to go again immediately, and you have to, right? Because the next player is coming up. And I think what sport does is, it's not failure. It's like you either win that play or not, you win the game or not, but you've always got another opportunity. And I think and if you guys seen The Pursuit of Happiness, there's that scene where he's like making the cold calls and he's trying to minimize the time between calls. That's kind of what we need to do with regards to failure. Is if you fail, if something doesn't go the way you want it to do, it's nice to say, we're not failure, just failing forward, all of that kind of stuff. You can see it as trivial, but it's about minimizing the time to the next iteration or the next attempt. And I know in the past, I've failed at something. It didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And I'm like, I just sat there feeling sorry for myself for ages. And I'm like, it didn't go anywhere. Like, I just sat there in that kind of pit, like, what's going on? That didn't work out. As opposed to in football, it's like, all right, the pass didn't complete or interception, all these bad things happen. It's like, well, can you go out and do it a bit better next time. Yeah. Okay. So you learn that, you immediately put that knowledge into practice. You do things a little bit better. And I think it's that speed, that iteration that we need to get to in business and life in general, that we don't see, like you say, it's just a step forward or a step forward, but we play again. And so if we come back to your point, we don't quit. We don't come out of the game. We keep playing.
I love that, because if you think about the energy you waste crying about something that went wrong, and use that energy to fix what went wrong or change direction, you'll be more productive. You will achieve more, right? Everybody here on this panel has achieved because they didn't necessarily go, oh, I'm going to waste the rest of my day because it's already 9 o'clock. This already happened at 8. My day is gone. No, use that time to make tomorrow better, right? Every day we have that chance to unlock the success that we can have, no matter how many times. And we will use that word failure because it's fear that people really are looking at. They feel ashamed that they didn't succeed at something. And I love what Scott said as well, that he's never failed, because if he failed, he wouldn't be here today. Right. So
had plenty of stuff go wrong. I mean, that's not the question, but again, I love the idea. And one of the things that I coach on and talk about is that it's not what anybody says to you that counts. It's what you say to you after they stop talking. And so Dan, that's kind of to your point of, if you have an event that doesn't go quite as well, it's not that the event didn't go quite as well. It's what do you say to you after it not going well?
Yeah.
And do you wallow in it, or do you just go, well, dadgummit, I'm going to do something about this and I'm going to go forward? I love that.
And the whole getting stuck in the negative emotion speaks to my air quote epic failure back in 2019, when I literally lost my business and had to start over. Both my husband and my coach and mentor at the time said, well, and my mentor got way more specific than my husband, basically said, give yourself 24 hours to wallow, to bitch, whine, moan, throw rocks, cuss, yell, whatever you got to do. And then after that 24 hours is up, it's done, it's over, get up and start over and see where you want to go from there. And I did exactly that. And I am more wildly successful than ever before. And if I hadn't had that kind of support behind me to help me see that, yeah, it's okay to be upset. Just don't get lost in it. Don't wallow in it. Don't get stuck there. Take it, process it, and then get up and start again.
I love that advice. I've known so many people who've gotten similar advice, but yet their 24 hours became 4 years. Which is a shame, right?
Yeah.
And just like I said, you can put the energy into the wrong things. If we, and I love that the fact that Dan talked about time, right? If you had 24 hours left to live, how would you use it? That's how I live my day.
The chocolate in the all the bad things. I'd eat all the chocolate and then I go and call my family.
Chocolate, ice cream, the whole deal, cookies, and then just.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that? I think there was a commercial, a meme or something, that the plane is going down, and the pilot says, "We're gonna die, no matter what happens. We're gonna die," and everybody, they start calling their spouses and, I hated you this whole life, and then they. And the people next to him, I hate you. Why? And then all of a sudden the pilot goes, "Oh, we regained. We're good. Now we're good." They're like, "Uh-oh, what did I just do?" So that has to remind us. And I loved watching that, because it reminds us that, why are we waiting to tell someone how we truly feel? Yep. If I am in a relationship with you and I don't like certain things about it, do I live with it? Does it hurt me every day, or do I let you know about it? And if you don't change, maybe we need to change where we are in our lives. So that was a great message for, hopefully some people got it too, that we should not wait opportunity to be the greatest person that ever lived. And don't look at somebody else and say how great they are. And you said that earlier, Sophie. Don't wait for your greatness. Be great today.
One of the things that I've been hearing a lot and kind of getting punched in the face with, no baseball bats, but constant reminders, is that success is about how much uncomfortability can you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like, and how much do you seek it versus hide from it? And I think historically, and I've been very guilty of making a lot of mistakes in the past, hence why I study all this stuff and ultimately try and teach your way out of it, right? Is I've done a lot of things to avoid tension and avoid conflict. And, from a sales perspective, you don't negotiate as hard as you possibly should, or in things in business, you kind of just, I'm going to try and take it easy. And then you get eaten out and, chewed up and just like spit out. And, in relationships, you don't say the things, like Sifu, to your point, you don't say the things that you want to say because you're scared of what the reaction is going to be or something along those lines. And so we think by not saying those things that we actually avoid those situations, but all you're doing is pushing it a little bit further down the road and amplifying it for the next time, because it's like those little things like kind of itching away. And if you don't deal with it now, then some point down the line, it's going to be even worse. So I think, a lot of what we need to do is just be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that comes back to that failure thing. It's the fear element. I don't like I've been successful. Like, why would I put myself back into a point where I can learn or not win and do these things? I'm at this expectation for myself. And we've got to kind of lower that expectation, as you were saying, be comfortable in that. I don't know it. I'm back to being a novice, a rookie, kind of learning phase. But that's where all the growth is. And we kind of need to, seasons, I think, is kind of go back through it, go back up, back through it, back up.
I love that, Dan, because some people here may not know that you're a professional bodybuilder, and you understand that your body needs to be put into stress for the success that you're looking for. I put my body through stress before most people were up this morning before 5 a.m. because that's when I was hitting the weights, right? Every day we need to have some stress in our life so we can get better at learning how to deal with it. And as a professional bodybuilder, if you stopped working out, and I used to go in, I used to be the guy behind the cameras at professional bodybuilding. This is when they used to do the drug stuff. And I know you don't. And you would see behind the scenes because I was there taking pictures and everything. And the minute that one of these guys stopped taking the steroids or stopped working out, they blew up. And they were unhealthy, right? So I love the fact that you're a professional bodybuilder, but a healthy one. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I choose to do it naturally. I have so much admiration for the guys that do take performance enhancing chemicals and stuff, and the physiques they're able to create is amazing. But what that is, I think it's in lots of environments. You have it in the military as well. Is as soon as that system and the external expectations disappear, and we're reliant on our own expectations for ourselves, that kind of disparity is the challenge. Is when everybody's looking at you, it's easy to do the right thing when people are looking at you. Oh, look at Dan, he's in the gym. What's he doing? What's he eating? And everyone's asking that question. You're like, I better live up to that expectation. But as soon as that kind of goes away, it's like, well, what do I want to do? What do I choose to do? It's so much easier just to kind of fall back into bad habits. And so I think, we talked right at the beginning of this is look at the awesome people that we're around. Our network is so important to us in terms of setting people who have high expectations for you. And in behavior change, it's the kind of theory of planned behavior is social norms. The expectation of the groups around you plays such a massive part in whether you will even think about raising your expectations to match the group.
I think that it's absolutely in what you're saying there, but what came to me is the folks that are watching this, congratulations, because you're working to up level the knowledge you're getting, the people you're associating with, you're stretching and reaching to do that. And I think at some point I know when I became a professional speaker, I started hanging with professional speakers. Novel concept, right? Because some good stuff can't help but fall off. And so that again goes to both combination of mindset and growth. What are some of the growth strategies to take and utilize these things we've been talking about? How do you take those to grow your business? Anybody want to volunteer?
Go ahead,
You know,
Sophie.
it kind of piggybacks off of both what you both said. It's about setting yourself up for success by doing things you want to do, not what people think you should do. That's, Dan was saying how, when people are watching, ooh, what is he doing? What is he doing? You're playing into what they think you should be doing, what they think you should look like, or you should, whatever and what success means to them. But once you define what success is for you and you take the initiative to learn what it takes to grow a business, it is about doing what's right for you. And this is where that holistic approach plays into it, because if you're doing what you should do or what other people think you are or think you do, you are going to be miserable, because your gut, that intuition, is going to be screaming at you going, stop, this isn't right. This doesn't feel good. I hate this. I'm so unhappy. And when you follow your true passion and what truly works for you, what you determine as who you are, what you want to do, who you want to serve, and what success looks like for you, not anybody else, that's when you can really jump in and take learnings and calls like this and put them into action, because you're coming from that correct place of, this is what I want, this is what I believe, this is what I want to do, this is who I am, and nobody's going to tell me different. So I'm stepping into that discomfort zone, because I'm going to do what I think, and I don't care what other people think. You judge me all you will, but this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what feels right to me. And here I go. Now I'm going to learn what I need to do. I'm going to put into play what I need to do to make all that happen. And I can do it from a place that is going to be successful, instead of a place that's going to be comfortable maybe, but it's also going to be discomfort because you don't like what you're doing. You don't feel good doing what you're doing. You have to come from what works for you and what feels good for you, so that because that naturally motivates you to listen to us, to learn from us, and to implement it, because you've set a goal for success that means something to you and is by your definition that you can 100% get behind and do.
I love the fact that you brought it up about the success that you want, right? Because I've had clients who became extremely successful, but were unhappy. I have a guy who was a lawyer, passed the bar, the whole deal, and he was so unhappy. When he found his own calling, he quit and did his own thing, and he's super happy, super grateful for the decisions he made along the way. And you talked earlier about mindset, and mindset is how we start to feel who we are. I just, this past weekend, I had a conversation with a gentleman, super successful, and he had been a manager, an owner of all these different things. But he said, one of the things I lacked was EQ. I stepped over everybody so I can have the success that I wanted. And then he goes, then I look back and I go, what have I done? I burned so many bridges. I hurt so many people. That his real success came when he realized who he was, that he started digging deep. He started learning on neuroscience and NLP and how his words and his actions affected others, that he's wildly successful compared to the way he was going, because he went into the different mindset of understanding who he was and who he was showing up as. So I love the mindset.
If we go back to sport, it's easy to see who's winning, right? Like, there's only one scoreboard and there's only one way to get points, like, in theory, right? But in life, there's so many different ways you can keep score. And it's, we all fall to the kind of basic ones that everyone keeps scoring, like finance, job title, size of house, all of those things. But like, is that really what this is about? And I think, like you said, Sifu, that peace of mind, just being able to wake up in the morning and feeling good about yourself, and all of those kind of things is so, we get to like later on in life, that's going to be so much more important than kind of, the size of the wheels on the car that you drove, for example, and all those kind of crazy metrics that we think are important, but actually, are they? They're easier to measure. That's the kind of one thing. And you go back to business, it's like we measure the things that are easy to measure, but are they always the best ways of keeping score? I'm not sure.
I think that's interesting that you were talking about expectations before. It made me think about the difference between motivation, somebody watching you at some kind of outside in activity, versus inspiration, something inside out, having that want to, what really makes you want to accomplish things. So part of it is managing our own expectations and living to those. One of the things that I share consistently is if you got want to, you can learn the rest. The one thing you can't teach is the want to. So how did you both get into the point where you were seeking out, as we were talking before we came on, Sophie, you're in the midst of a program, you're seeking out even more knowledge. You've got tremendous knowledge. You're fabulous at what you are and who you are. What are you trying to get up on top of everybody now? What's giving you that drive?
If you're not, if you think you've learned it all, you're going to stagnate and be, almost not dead, but it's like, if you stop learning, you stop living, you stop doing, you stop growing. And, and here's the thing is, we are never going to be perfect. There's always something new to learn. There's always a different way to approach something to get better at it. And, for me, I always have a coach or mentor, a program. So I'm in a mentorship coaching mastermind program, just re-upped for it for year 2. And this program you mentioned, where we're studying the science of getting rich for 60 days straight under a certain protocol, is from that program. One of the mentors in that program has offered this to the membership to help us, get into and stay in, the wealth mindset, the success mindset, and to understand that, how to achieve wealth on our terms, in the way we want to do it, the way we believe in it, so to speak. Because as Dan was saying, when you're keeping score, are you keeping score on not only the right things, but the things that mean something to you, not to the other people? Are you keeping up with the Joneses? Oh, I got to have a mansion. I got to have a Rolls Royce. I got to have this because that's what the neighbors have. Or is that what you truly want? I mean, if you really want a mansion and a Rolls Royce, that's great. But only if you truly want that. It goes back to what you said too, Scott. You got to want it. If you don't want it, why are you going for it? Why are you wasting your energy, your time, all of it on something you don't really want, but something you think you need or have to have because you have to keep up with someone, you're competing with someone? There is enough wealth, abundance, and success in this world for everybody. It's not a competition. It's not, oh, Sifu has taken all our success, guys. We're screwed. We're never going to be successful because Sifu's got it all. He's the one that's going to be that's not how it works. And
take it.
He's willing to share the wealth, sharing the wealth. And we don't even have to share it. It's just there to be had by all. And that's, we all are humans. We all fall back into old patterns. If we don't stay vigilant every day, learning, growing, and practicing all of these things, we do stop succeeding as wildly as we want to. We stop growing and learning, and we stop doing the things that matter because we just kind of get lazy and we get lackadaisical, we get complacent. And, contentment is only good contentment can actually be a killer. It can be a business killer, a life killer, because if you get content and stop learning, growing, and looking for more and doing more, that's when the body falls apart. You stop exercising, you stop eating good, all those different things. It's a constant practice. It's a constant learning because we are human and we are imperfect. We can't just learn it once. It's not a one and done thing. It never is a one and done thing.
But I've arrived.
You got it all, Sifu. You don't have to worry about it.
Before we go on, let me share this with everybody. Take a look.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
And Sophie and I are both part of that organization, Connected Leaders Academy.
We are.
When we consider everything we're talking about today, I want everybody here to also consider sharing the show, because we're getting so much great content. Every one of you has shared such amount of wealth. And when Sophie keeps saying Sifu's got it all, Sifu has nothing without you. Without you. I only have anything because of you. So thank you. And remember, the thing that I always tell people is it's not about you. It's about the people you serve.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that. Dan, you're going to answer Scott's question?
Yeah,
Scott,
so
remind them.
I know I was lucky to find this stuff. I went to university, left, went back, study a master's degree, and when I got there, a friend of mine said, "Hey, I know you're doing kind of the body and stuff, but check this out. I think you might like it." It was a CD by a certain guy called Tony Robbins, who we've probably all heard of, and set me down a path of studying NLP and psychology, and literally that one moment changed my entire life and outlook for the better. But I was always hungry for knowledge, and this is something I've always done. I was lucky to work for an amazing personal development seminar company in Europe. We put some amazing seminars. My life was spent in seminar rooms for a good few years, just soaking the knowledge up, being surrounded by amazing speakers, constantly kind of getting reminded of what's important. If I'm honest, I was very superficial at that time, and I knew it from a conceptual perspective. So all of the things we're talking about today, I could quote all of the things. I could say, I have this saying, I have that saying, any scenario you put me in, I had a saying for it, or I had a theory or something along those lines. It was really good from the mouth. But I figured it wasn't that. And kind of, you have to have a few things go wrong and to learn these lessons the hard way sometimes. And it wasn't until I learned that actually, you know what, the knowledge is good from a mental perspective, but it's not until you dive in and apply it to something that you really get the lesson. And this is the thing, so seminars teach you the idea, but the real world tests whether you know this stuff or not and can embody it. And actually, Sifu, coming back to the bodybuilding thing, the bodybuilding is, of course, it's a major physical challenge. You have to push hard in the gym. You have to eat the right food. I maybe pushed a bit too hard this morning. My back's a little sore, so I might have to take it easy for a couple of days to kind of back and down and up. But really for me, it was the mental side of things. I knew I needed to challenge myself. And the question was that I really wanted to know is, do I have discipline? Do I have the kind of mental talents and traits and elements that allow me to do that? And I could read about it, let's read a book on discipline, and hey, I have discipline because I read the book. Or do you put yourself into a scenario where you have to build it? And then the other piece, and you just mentioned there, is the service of the people that we kind of want to work for. Is I am so much better at speaking, coaching, writing now because I've had experience. I could recite all of those quotes. I could write an amazing quote book. But now I've talked about it from a moment in time, and I've been into that kind of that one experience, that moment. And we've all been in those moments, right, where there's something gets unlocked in you. And you're like, but you can only do that by throwing yourself into the deep end, by pursuing something that you're super passionate about, by going uphill, by going into the darkness, by doing all the things that challenge every aspect of you until you get to that one point, and then, that thing that you learned 17 years ago, that's why I needed it. And so that's why I do these kind of crazy things. That's why I do the kind of fitness and the bodybuilding and things, because I want to understand what's that journey. What do people go along? Even this week, I've just put this on. I don't see like a continuous glucose monitor. I don't have diabetes or anything, but I've got one of these things now because I want to see, like, how can I be more empathetic? How can I understand more about the journey that some people go on? And so I think it's these experiences, that experience is what tests whether we've learned the lesson. And so I've been lucky enough to have the information. Now I'm trying to teach myself the lesson to see if I've really remembered stuff.
Beautiful. If you take anything in life, and Scott, you talked about never failing, but if we're afraid of failing, we don't go there. We never go near it. And every day you challenge yourself. Yeah. Scott, you do the same thing. Sophie, you do the same thing. I do the same thing. But every day we have a choice not to do that, to stay in bed, to stay comfortable. When we get uncomfortable, we become better because we have to find a way. Every day, I am so uncomfortable. You talked about your back. Oh my God. I've had 3 knee surgeries and only have 2 knees. Go figure that one out, right? Every day, we need to step up. We want success. We want to know how to even unlock it. But we have the key. We talked about that earlier. What does it take? It takes you. It takes what's inside of you. It takes what's inside of other people for you to see the beauty of them. Of course, you have to see the beauty in you first. Every morning I wake up, I go, "You good, buddy? Looking good." So my son is also a professional. Well, he's amateur right now, a bodybuilder, right? He's only 24, but he is so strict. He's so good about everything. And he got himself a coach. Meanwhile, I can coach him because I've been doing it my whole life. And he was a little bit embarrassed to tell me that he got a coach. I'm like, don't be embarrassed. I said, my God, I'm so proud of you because what I've told you your whole life, you need to hear it multiple of times. So you should pay for it. It's free from me, but maybe it becomes more valuable when you're paying for it. So I believe in coaching so much that I am so grateful my son got himself a coach, right? And you talked about it, Sophie, that you have multiple coaches. Scott's had coaches. If my coach doesn't have a coach, I don't want him. I don't want him.
Exactly. It's so important. And so many people think they can do it, they can do it alone and they have to do it alone. Speaking from the female perspective, we're really guilty of having to prove ourselves, to do it all by ourselves. Cause we're a woman. We don't matter. And it's like, that is, we do matter and we don't have to do it alone. It's okay to ask for help. In comparison for the males, a lot of men are raised, you don't cry. You're a wimp if you cry. Are you? I mean, how many of you 3 men have ever cried in your life?
Never.
Just this morning.
Did you feel like a wimp because you did it? I mean,
no,
it is an expression of life. And, women tend to try to be this end all be all nurturer. I can do it all because I'm Wonder Woman. And it's like, kill the Wonder Woman thing, let's all do this together. Get a coach, get support, build a team in your business, all the things. And these people that support you are not just the professionals, the coaches, the mentors, your team members that work for you. Surround yourself with friends and family who believe in you and support you. When I lost it all in 2019 and my husband stood up, the first thing he said to me was good, which I was like, excuse me.
Little tough love come quick.
Yeah,
I've interrupted for a minute. Is anybody watching a scary movie at the moment? Because I'm hearing some screaming in the background.
Oh, that might be me with the kids. We live next door to my daughter's school.
That's fine. As long as we know that they're not getting killed, we're good.
It's definitely a scary movie when they come out of school, though, honestly.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. No
But
worries.
you need the personal cheerleaders too, the ones that love you and support you no matter what. In that moment, in those few weeks, I learned just how much my husband believes in me, supports what I do, and he was willing to invest our personal money into my business to let me start again and do it all over. And I never doubted him the entire time I was doing this and the entire time I've been married to him. But he really stepped up and showed me just how much, and it meant more to me than having a coach and mentor say, good, wallow in it for 24 hours and then get up and do it again. It's a whole different perspective. You need to be surrounded by various kinds of support. Don't do it alone. You will be so much happier. You will be so much more successful. And the failures or the bumps in the road will be so much easier to handle if you don't do it alone.
Well, think about the bumps in the road. Why are they there? I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it's those little lovely little challenges in life that, right? Those little less, if everything were perfect and smooth sailing, we'd all do it. And everybody would be just bored. If you didn't have something to challenge you, something to say, hey, you're successful, and what else can you do? Or can you do it better? Can you do, whatever? Those bumps in the road are there to keep you on the path, but to let you know that it's not just going to be smooth sailing the entire time, because that's not reality. Reality is life, change happens, stuff happens, good and bad. And if you look at it from, like Scott said, it's not failure, it's a lesson. Someone said, you're either winning or you're learning. And that's really what it is. And that's life, that's business, that's everything. And if you're surrounded by the people who love and support you and cheer you on, and it helps you keep going, and it helps you keep that whole holistic mindset, heart, soul, everything in the right direction, in the positive perspective. Because, when you're alone and you get stuck in a mire, it's really hard to get out if you're doing it by yourself. And to have those people there to back you, to help you when you do get stuck beyond your own capabilities of pulling yourself back out, it's everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I share with my clients is 5 questions in any challenging situation. What's the lesson? What's the gift? What did you do to create it? What would you modify next time to make it better? How's it going to serve you the rest of your life? And literally, if you take those 5 questions to any challenging situation, what's the lesson? What did you learn from it? What's the gift? I had a near-death experience. I'm alive. That's a pretty good gift, right? So you start to go through those questions in any situation, and it's absolutely amazing. And then it's left off with, how's this going to serve you the rest of your life? Now it gives you that positive expectancy that this challenge was there to serve you, not to shoot you, right? It was not done to you, it was done for you. So now you can take it and move it forward. I agree with everything you were saying there, Sophie. And I love the fact that Dan's smiling at that as well.
Yeah, no, this is a great set of questions. It's funny, isn't it? Because, we can take things from each moment, and as long as we have the right frame and looking at ways, looking at things. But I like the kind of question about the potholes and the bumps in the road and what they're there for. Actually, they're there to get rid of everyone else. That's the kind of thing, is they're there to test whether you really want to go forward. And one of the things, and Sifu, if your little one's I say little, it's not so little, but if he's into bodybuilding at 24, there's a difference between bodybuilding at 24 and 45. And, at 45, you have a little bit, in theory, more responsibility. And I always turn up to shows, and there's maybe 7 or 8 people that are supposed to show up at a competition in the kind of masters category. And invariably, there's always 2 or 3 that don't show up. And Sophie, it's those potholes. It's like along that journey, things are going to get in the way. Things are going to come up. Things are going to arise. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be priorities. There's going to be question marks. There's going to be all these things. And it's about how you handle those. And I'll give you a couple of examples. My dad died a couple of years ago from cancer. We had an amazing battle. It's like phenomenal, just brought the family together in so many incredible ways. But he died a few weeks before one of my competitions that we've been training for. And he'd been a massive advocate and a cheerleader and an encourager of kind of the journey that we were going on. My brother was my coach, so I had a coach on the whole thing as well. And the question was, what am I going to do now? Like, I could easily, everyone would say, oh, it's okay. Just, you don't have to do it. Everyone would understand if you kind of withdraw from the competition. And I was like, I could, or I could choose to honor him by continuing. And actually turned up to the funeral with kind of a little meal prep just tucked in the corner and things along those lines. Luckily, he had an amazing sense of humor. But there's always going to be things like that come up. And it's the story that we tell ourselves. And Scott, the questions that we ask ourselves when those come up, it's like, okay, well, this thing's come and punched you in the face. Like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to learn from it? How are you going to change next time? How are you going to go forward? And like, how's this going to add to your superpower list? And you're like, okay, well, if I look at it that way, then progress is inevitable. But if I look at it as a speed bump and like, oh no, my car and all these kind of things, then we're invariably going to stop and kind of ponder and question and then, easily get knocked off track. So I love those questions. Yeah, that's why I was smiling at those as they were coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you were eating, during your dad's funeral because your dad was proud of you. And he's in heaven and he's proud of you. And he's looking down and he wouldn't want you to stop your life, right?
Yeah.
He wants you to honor him. And that was beautiful that you did that. And then, Sophie, you also talked about the wins and the losses, right? People don't say the win, but any team that loses, they go back to the videotape of the game.
Mhm.
Why are we not doing that? Why are we not reflecting back on the mistakes that we made, on the losses that we had, and how to make them better? If we did that, we'd win more often. But not necessarily, because we're still going to come up against those bumps in the road. We're going to come up against those obstacles. Things are going to happen because life is messy. No matter how clean you are, you're going to get dirty. Otherwise, you're not living. If you don't get dirty in your life, my friends, you're not using toilet paper right. We need to use everything in our lives as a learning tool every day. When you compared your training at 45 and my son at 24, huge difference. You have the maturity, you have the knowledge, but my son is a little different than even I was. He's got this drive that's incredible. He still has a full-time job. He's coaching people and he's working out and he has a fiance and he's doing all these things. And he learned that because he saw me and he saw his mom. Right? His mom is also an entrepreneur, the whole deal. When we consider the lessons that we give someone, they don't always have to be spoken. Sometimes it could be by the actions we take, the actions of even how we show up. Because my son will come up and say, Dad, I remember when you did this, that, the other. I'm like, you do? I'm like, oh, you were paying attention. Thank God. Thank God. Because now he's living a life that he wants. And I never said, hey, you have to go to this college, you have to do this, you have to do that, because it's his life. When I impose a will on him, it'll only be my will, and he won't live the life that he's supposed to live, that he's meant to live. So every day, show up the way you need to show up. Don't do it for anybody else. Do it for you.
Absolutely. And that whole the son observing and saying he remembered those things, brings up a memory of sorts for me that my son is now 31. He has his own son who is 3.5, and that so he's been through his own, career, his financials. Now he's a dad, and for me, what really, and it's, you may all go, really, you like this? I'm like, I love that my own son comes to me and says, no offense, mom and dad, but I'm not going to do it this way because I watched you fail at it. Or he actually learned from some of our mistakes that happened along the way as we were raising him. And that does make me feel happy and proud that he actually was observing not just the good times, but he saw the bad times and he has learned from them as well. And he doesn't let them be a burden on him. He's like, you know what, you guys did this. And, I saw you guys basically saying you guys failed. And we're like, yes, thank you. You saw it, you learned. Please don't do it like we did it. That is a great thing. And it just means the world to me when my son and my daughter come to me and say, no offense. And it's funny that they say, no offense, mom and dad, but I'm going to do it differently because I watched you guys do it. And that wasn't a good thing. I'm like, thank you. Yes, I'm so glad you see it that way. Please don't repeat my mistakes.
When we're trying to teach someone, including a client, right? Not necessarily our children, but our client, if they can't follow what you've done for your success, then you haven't really helped them. If you're telling them, be as successful as me, but you don't know how to get them to that point, then we failed them as a coach, as a mentor, as a trainer. So it's important that we document some of our successes and some of our failures so that we can say, I tried it this way. I stunk. I got hurt. I lost money. I did this. I did that. And then this personally because you know the different ways of lifting weights. You know the different ways of helping somebody this food did this to my body. I was talking to a coach when I was in California, and she almost died. I love her to death. She's amazing. And she tells me, I realized I had to start eating for my blood type. And not everybody knows about that. Understanding that your body is going to take food differently than somebody else's body. How your body reacts, your blood type, the insulin, all these different things that are going to affect you is so critical to our health that we pay attention to everything else except us. We matter. You matter. Make sure never to forget you matter. And you're made of matter. So look at that.
I think, and if we come into nutrition, it's a careful place to play. I don't like to go there too much. Everything is marketing, and blood type diet. I was talking to someone about the Atkins diet. There's all the diets, right? The kind of intermittent fasting, all those various bits and pieces. The question is, does it work? And we're all coaches, we're all teachers, we're all guides and stuff on this journey. It's like the question is, does it work? And 80% of what we all say is the same thing, and 20% is marketing. And what I think we've got to give people the ability to learn is, does it work? Like, what are you tracking? What are you looking at to know if you're moving in the right direction? Because if you're moving in the right direction, then just carry on doing the thing that you're doing. Sometimes it's boring. Success is just showing up and doing the same thing over and again. But if you're moving in the right direction, if it feels good, if you're ticking all the boxes, talking about the kind of holistic approach, Sophie, that you were saying about earlier, if we're moving in that general direction, then great. If we're not, then crying out loud, sorry, almost swore, then change and do something different. And don't persist at it and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to continue working at it. Identify a way to quickly change direction. I think this is what a lot of people do is they say, right, I'm going to try this because so-and-so did it, so it must work. It's like, no, it worked for them. Like, what works for one person doesn't work for everyone. Just figure out what works for you And then if it doesn't work, then change it and be playful until you find something that you actually like. You know, and food is so personal. Like I can eat, you know, I've got bags of bagels over there and I'm still losing weight eating bagels. It's crazy. And I like bagels. You know, I've only recently moved to New York. So am I going to sample? Of course I am. Is it the best diet? Of course it's not. It's terrible. I'm fully aware of this, but I'm having fun with it. And, you know, and that's it. It's like, find something that you enjoy, find something that works for you. If you're moving in the right direction, keep going. If you're not moving in the right direction, then change, and know the difference between persistence and stubbornness. And sometimes they're similar and sometimes they're not. And Sophie's nodding her head, so I think she's got some experience with that.
That's those baseball bats from the universe. That's when I know it's stubbornness.
And here's the funny thing, both Dan and I are in New York, and we talk a little bit different.
Both sound like New Yorkers.
I'm closing in.
Come on now.
I'm closing in.
What you talking about?
How you doing? That's as far as I go. I'm stopped.
It's interesting when we have a conversation like this, and we start to bring what we feel comfortable bringing forth, and then sometimes there are going to be conversations that are not comfortable to have, and when we talk about the power of mindset, sometimes we have to have those uncomfortable conversations. Before we end the show, how do you prepare for such a conversation? I know I twisted it around a little bit. So I figured, how do you prepare for an uncomfortable conversation?
You can test me, because there's actually a chapter in my book just behind me on this exact same thing. The first one, I think, is to, you know, you got to know what you want and why you want it. And there's going to be an element of compromise. So for me with the bodybuilding is that I know what the goal is. I know what I want to do. And I don't want to compromise on my goal, but I'm willing to compromise on how to get there. And this is, you know, a lot of people compromise on the goal and they kind of lower their expectation and regret kicks in and like animosity and all those kind of things. But how you get there is different. And I think it's about being creative and you know, brainstorming so many different ways that you can do it. And most people go in with one idea, the other idea, and there's this kind of Buddhist idea of the middle way, which I think, you know, politicians could also learn from, especially at the moment, is if you talk about interests, and this is like a sales negotiation thing, is what are the common interests and how do we align those? What are your frustrations? What are your fears? What are your concerns? If we lay all those out, then we can kind of plot path. But it's not to be so just dogmatic on one particular way of doing things. And, you know, so if you talked about having team members, we employ people on our teams because they're geniuses and they're great at what they do. Let people bring their ideas to the table and learn from them. And like, just, you know, the openness to always be, you know, surprised, I think is important. And one of the things I've talked about, you know, and as a teacher, you create all this content, and the feedback idea is like create the content, but then allow it to be pulled apart without you being just attached to it. So it's that, it's like, how do we have that mindset where we're not attached to the process, we're not attached to the way of doing things, but we know what the outcome is we want, and then just being creative and open-minded on the journey.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that answer.
Well, when you're having a conversation with a person and not yourself, I mean, you got to know yourself, but when you're having a difficult conversation with someone else, whether it's family, team, whatever, if you can know them as best as and as humanly possible before you go into that conversation, that is going to be key to being able to deliver your conversation still in full truth, transparency, and all of those things, but in a way that is not going to push their buttons, going to trigger them into some sort of negative experience, because the tough conversations are tough. I mean, it's a given, but if you can minimize the conflict or the emotion that it's going to bring out in that other person by knowing them and knowing how to speak to them and still be able to share your truth, your whatever it is that you're sharing with them, even if it's facts and figures and whatnot, but it's in the presentation. how you bring it to them. If you're bringing it in a combative format where I am right and you are wrong and this is how it's going to be, well, that's not going to be a very great conversation, and it's not going to produce a lot of good results for anybody. But if you can know the person you're speaking to and know how to approach the conversation with your truth and whatnot in a way that they can receive without being triggered, buttons pushed, or fly off the handle, whatever the case may be, you're going to have much more success in having those uncomfortable conversations with them.
Yeah, beautiful. What are your thoughts, Scott?
What came to me through all this is the entire concept of high intention, low attachment. If you're going into the situation with high intention, you are working to address a challenge, solve a challenge, work with a challenge, do whatever, and you understand the intention completely of why you're doing it, and it's held in the highest possible regard. Then the low attachment side is that you implement that call the very best way you possibly can with a low attachment as to the outcome, either for you or for them, quite frankly. You're going into the situation, and it's actually a concept that I teach on a lot and encourage people to share the thought that when I talk with people, I come from a place of high intention, low attachment. I want to impart something great each and every time that we share with each other. And there's a low attachment as to what comes out of it. I'm not trying to get anything out of it. I don't want you to necessarily to get anything out of it. I just want to get the points across. And I think when you become known as a person that works from a place of high intention, low attachment, some of those more difficult conversations are actually easier to have because they know your heart ahead of the conversation. I teach consistently, it's about creating relationships way ahead of the need to have those relationships. That's why you make the relationship, because when there's actual need, they know it's coming from the right place.
Yeah.
Well, you guys leave me no talking points. What am I to do? I have to say, all of you beautifully said, because for me, it's also the same thing. I bring my heart. People know who I am. And when they know who I am, just like you all talked about, it's how I show up. So if it's a difficult conversation, I said it earlier, it's not necessarily about me, it's about them, because I'm in a relationship with them one way or another, whether it's a business relationship, they're my coworker, there's a relationship. So I value relationships very much. So when I approach a difficult conversation, I want a good outcome for them, right? That's my goal. But even if I have to fire them, that's a difficult conversation. But then I also have to let them know that we tried everything first before we had to have this conversation. So there's comes a time that there's no way in avoiding it. So we can't procrastinate on that difficult conversation, because then it becomes harder to have, and then people are not treated correctly. So I say, rip the Band-Aid. Ouch. Yes, but guess what? We can move from this. We can move forward. And I appreciate that. And if somebody needs to have a difficult conversation with me, don't sugarcoat it. Tell me I'm ugly. That's okay. I'm okay with that, because I know I'm not, but that's okay if you think so. Here's the thing. Every day we have that difficult conversation with ourselves. Oh man, the alarm clock went off again. Hit it. Oh, I can another 5 minutes. That's a conversation I never have. Why? I wake up way before my alarm clocks do. So thank you. You guys were, I'm going to say, freaking amazing, incredible. But before we go, I want you to share with us. We're going to put your website across the bottom. People, do me a favor. These are incredible human beings. Do not miss out on the opportunity to connect with them. So right now, we're going to have, let's start with ladies first. Sophie, You have 30, 45 seconds. Let us know why we should meet.
Thank you, Sifu. I am Sophie Zollman in Nashville, Tennessee, the owner and founder of FMD Strategic Partners. We take the guesswork out of digital marketing to get real results for 7 and 8 figure service providers. We love helping you grow your business through marketing that actually works. And you can find me at fmdstrategicpartners.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, or well, X, sorry. I've been there so long, it's still Twitter to me.
Right. There you go. Dan, you're up, my friend.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on the show, and team. This was an amazing conversation. So thanks. I've taken so much away from it. As Steve mentioned, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a behavioral scientist. I look at the psychology that goes into making change. I have one book or two books on Amazon. One's on persuasion, but Personal Transformation Blueprint looks at the psychology of making the changes. If you've heard today the ideas, but you've tried and challenged yourself to do it, and you haven't quite broken free of the old mindset yet, then check out the book on Amazon, Personal Transformation Blueprint. There's another book coming out this year called Unstuck, because our psychology is all wired around getting into these grooves, these ruts, and really making it difficult for us to change direction. So I appreciate that often that first step is the hardest one. So check me out on my website, danstory.com, or get one of the books on Amazon. But thanks for having me on the show, Sifu. It's been amazing.
Oh, absolutely. It's been great. And then, of course, my good friend, Scott, and my co-host today. You're up, my friend.
Thank you. I'm honored as a trainer and speaker, and I'd love to share messages of hope and inspiration. Classically, I'm a sales guy and a sales trainer, but everything in life is a sale. So that also means a communication trainer and helping people live their fullest life. Been blessed to do many, many things. Got a brand new book called 104 Tips to Sell More with Less Effort. When Seafood asked, why did you name it that? I said, because sell less with more effort would not sell. So there's a joke there. Somebody will get that. Anyway, the whole point is that it's about creating relationships, and that's what I help with, whether that be through sales, through communication, or through life. You've been put on this planet to live fully, and I want to use all the talents and capabilities God's granted me to help you do that. Scott@scottschilling.com. I don't hide well, or you can just go to scottschilling.com and see it there.
There you go. There you go. Beautiful. And I am Sifu Rafael. One of the things that I love is connecting. I love communication, how we even communicated here. We made some jokes. We laughed. We looked. We explored. We used our body language to communicate. So one of the companies that I have is Speaking Prowess, and we help individuals and organizations master communication, greater confidence, clarity, and impact through, are you ready? Training, workshops. We also enhance communication worldwide, and that is my full goal. That is what I want to do, and it's one voice at a time. I also do happen to have 6 shows, and on Monday, it's going to be my 7th show. I have an incredible human being who's going to be on my Author's Tales podcast. So please log on Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern. And if you're an author, you need to come on my show. I do have 7 now with Mondays coming on. You are all such incredible human beings. Everybody, if you're not following them, what are you doing? All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed and beautiful Friday. And don't make it like one of my mentors said, don't make it a weekend, make it a strong end.
Nice.
All right, you guys, hang on for a second. Everybody, goodbye. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you next time. And Jose, get better, my friend.